So Run Pure Sports Friday night happy hour. I'm JT Hayes Jr. on Twitter. It's Friday. We've got a guest with us because Draft Sheet is in Vegas. And look, I hate to share this news, but if you're on Twitter or you're not on Twitter and you haven't seen it, basically he's being a pussy in Vegas because he says it's too cold to go to the Circa. And I couldn't do anything more than just say how sad and weak that is for DC, but that's okay. Obviously, we've got a French gentleman in the house. We've got AP here with us. AP, it's an 8-game Friday night slate. There's some news. There's some interesting plays on the slate here. How's your week been? How are you doing today?
Doing really well. We got Caleb in the chat, and Caleb, I believe it was Jokic triple-double. I forgot. I think, there you go. Jake in the chat said, it was a guarantee that Jokic would get a triple-double, and I believe he had it last night. So, Caleb, hopefully you made some money. But, no, we're doing good. We've been it's been a pretty good week. Like, we've been low-key crushing the play of the days. So, get that. Like, I don't think we really ask for likes anymore. We don't do it very often, but the plays of the day have been hitting. Vucevic absolutely nuked. You needed him yesterday. Came in around 6%. That was my play of the day yesterday. And then DC was on Kobe White, who we both had as our play of the day, like for four slates in a row. And he still is like constantly like 6-7% up. So it was a good night, really close. I like how this slate sets up too, though. I think it's going to be a big night for the Run Pure Sports crew.
It's a fun slate. We have a bunch of rematches from the other night, which obviously we like to get a little bit different in how we target them. I didn't say hit the like button because I wanted to see if organically you were going to get the message and just start doing it. It doesn't appear that that's the case. So once again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Halfway through the show, our next guest, who I'm going to introduce here in a minute, I'm going to give the opportunity for him to choose how many we need to get you the plays of the day. Because once again, I say it before, I'll say it again. We don't mind putting them in Discord. That's not what we wish to do. That's not what we want to do, but we will do it if we have to. And of course, the code to sign up, if you're not already a member for some reason, Heblets or Giblets 44% off of your first month or your first week. That includes any Sabersim product. Sweet Travis, speaking of Sabersim, you unveiled this beautiful new background on the Sabersim show yesterday with Rubio Dimes. It's really, I would say it's no coincidence that you then shipped on a single lineup, but that's the second time that you've done that this week. So on Monday Night Football, it's very simple. You're going to give me the lineup that you're using for single entry so I can share in that. But congratulations, nice week, nice couple of weeks for you. I don't think it's a coincidence that your embracement of the Eiffel Tower and all the beauty, joy, and privilege that it brings has something to do with you all of a sudden shipping every single night.
Yeah, I'm taking a travel around the world, JT. So I was in the streets of Brazil the other day. Now I'm in France, and I figured after last night, I got to stay in France a little while, especially with JT stopping by with his play of the day. And speaking of plays of the day, JT, listen, I am going to set the number, and this is how I roll. You don't just like wait to hit the like button so like the number's lower because we picked double. We're not stupid here. I want to see more likes now compared to what we got. So when we get halfway, if you put the likes in now, I'll reward you with a lower number to get to. So let's hit the like right now. Let's get things rolling. Also, I was happy to do the Sabersim show and cover for AP yesterday, and it worked out pretty well. I know me and Rubio took things down. DC was a part of the chop, and tons of members too. I had some members DMing me. It was an awesome day. So really, really excited to just keep playing some Showdown. I feel like I'm in a nice groove. And JT, I did tell Rubio Dimes off air. I said, when Easton Stick wins us all the money tonight, I said, I'm buying us Easton Stick jerseys. So I'm a man of my word. We're going with the powder blue, and me and Rubio are each going to have an Easton Stick jersey because not only did he get like the final touchdown to get us over that hump, but he did have all those fumbles and turnovers that got the Raiders defense to just be the absolute printer. So, I will be owning an Easton Stick jersey soon.
It was a rare play that worked out both ways because he not only sucked, but he also did enough to get into the optimal and get you over the hump. You mentioned DC in the chop as well. I saw that. What does DC do? He immediately buys a flight to Vegas where he can go and bitch about the weather. So congrats to DC. I hope you enjoy the weekend. and get a coat and maybe a sweater, and things will be fine. You're in Las Vegas. Go ahead, hit the like button. By the way, for those of you that didn't understand what Travis was saying, because he's very sharp and he's had a week where just numbers come to him like almost butter, you have to hit the like button now to get to a high number, and then it'll be lower. If you don't hit the like button now, maybe you're looking at a total somewhere in the 400, 500 range, which, I don't know, given viewership, you're just not going to get there during the show. So go ahead and hit the like button now. But we'll go ahead, Mangone. We'll start with the hot hand. We'll start with you. We'll switch things up. 8 games Friday night. Detroit at Philadelphia. This is a rematch from the other night where the Philadelphia 76ers actually absolutely blasted the Detroit Pistons. Philly favored by 15.5, 234.5 total. This game is in Philadelphia. The other night it was in Detroit. Marvin Bagley, the only injury news here, he is out for the Pistons. Hard for me to see that this game stays close with the mess that is the Pistons. But are you liking Joel Embiid here? Is there any part of you that can stomach even a single play from the Pistons?
Yeah, listen, you cannot ignore what Joel Embiid's doing. We talked about this on the show, I believe on Wednesday, and AP brought up a great point that, hey, that game was going to be on the road. Sixers have struggled more on the road. Better chance for that game to stay closer. Now, the big thing you have to think about on these slates is Embiid is fine and all, but like, I know we have a value on the Boston Celtics that we'll get to and discuss with the center position, but like you only need 2 centers. And if you just feel like you're locked in one of those values, well, that's going to squeeze out Joel Embiid's ownership. And that's going to be a big talking point, and his ownership could be a lot lower. Also, right now we're in the state of DFS where they're making pricing tighter, which I actually prefer. And because of that, these studs are harder to get, which keeps their ownership down for certain. But when we have value, we got to make sure we get it in there. And you can make a case that some of this value could be pretty good at the center position. So that's a big talking point today. For me, it's really just Joel Embiid or bust on the Sixers. I don't really have any interest in some of these other options. You could make a case on FanDuel for some of the other Sixers just because FanDuel's a little bit different. But on DraftKings, it's just Embiid, and that's it. We'll talk about it too. AP is going to discuss how we have a Pacers and Washington Wizards game. I'm sure he's got the lotion out for that one. That's a big game that we're going to want to consider getting exposure to today. And then Detroit's just tough because, listen, we had someone in the chat the other day basically say, like, Isaiah Stewart's a lock in this matchup. He's going to crush, and he ain't got in foul trouble, right? Sure, the minutes could be there. The problem that we have is, I mean, AP talked about this with the Wizards a lot this year. The Pistons are one of those teams that the minutes are not secure. The minutes are all over the place. It's definitely concerning. You can make the case that an Ausar Thompson, right, at the 6.1K price tag, does he have the ability to have a ceiling performance? Yes, I truly think he does, but the probability seems lower than I would like. Cade Cunningham at 8.2, I just don't think it's a great use of your salary. You can make a case that Maxey pushes the pace, but I just don't want to use my salary in that way. So for me, it's really just Joel Embiid here, unless something else changes with this game. But it's not a super appealing game. And again, it's an 8-game slate, and we got some news that we're still waiting on that we could get today that could spice some things up. So I think this is a game that we get minimal exposure to.
Drew Carpenter pointing out that Jalen Duren is out too. Yes, he's been out. My apologies. Jalen Duren is out too. AP thoughts here. Mangone, I'm in the same boat as Mangone, where it's basically Joel Embiid in this game. I don't even know how much I like him based on 15.5 spread, the rest of the slate. The news we'll talk about because we're waiting on some news that we seem to be waiting on every slate that hasn't broken our way really once yet. But what are your thoughts on Philly and Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, you rarely see like a 16-point side for a team in the NBA. It's just you don't like see that too often, and that's just really telling to how much like the Pistons are struggling right now. I still like the NBA. I mean, it's just like throughout a game, it's always a game of runs. You'll see a team, and that's why I wish we had live betting in Nebraska, because if you're actually watching the game, paying attention, you can implement some nice strategies that are definitely plus EV. Just understanding that these games have an ebb and flow to them. But with the Pistons, there were moments where they looked decent. And it was Bojan when he was getting buckets. I mean, really, when you look at them right now offensively, It's Bojan and it's Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, they need him. If they want to keep this game within 15 points or 16 points, whatever the side is, they're going to have to play Cade and Bojan a ton of minutes. And the rotation uncertainty has been something that is just, it's tough with this team. It really is. If you play Embiid, I do think that you want to consider some type of rule that incorporates Bojan or Cade Cunningham. And so I have them listed as tournament plays just on the fact that if offensively, if Philly like somehow undermines them a little bit, and if they hit their shots, like there were moments, Cade was what? I was watching this game closely. He couldn't hit anything, but there were moments where they went on runs to get it back within, under double digits, which is kind of what you want. It's probably a reach, but still, this is DFS. Weird things happen. I do think in tournaments, because of how bad Detroit is defensively, if somehow the game stays close, and if you get starter type minutes and rotation from the Philly side, Joel Embiid could absolutely crush. I think he's going to be a good tournament play again tonight. And then I from a matchup standpoint, opposing point guards have smashed this team too. So like I think Maxey is kind of a fringe, probably unowned tournament play as well. But I really think if you're playing these guys, you want to consider Bojan or Cade. I think those are the two keys to keeping this within striking range. But outside of that, I don't feel too confident on it. But I'll be honest. I'll have a little bit of exposure, and I'm gonna be very careful with those Embiid and Maxey, one or the other builds, and I'm going to make sure I have a bring back from this game. Not something I typically do, but I think this is a situation where you definitely want to consider it.
Pricing is cheap on the Pistons. AP, did you think that there was any real world possibility that the rotation in Detroit could get worse without Dwayne Casey?
I mean, no, but like, look, James Wiseman fouled out in 10 minutes. I mean, they were forced to put Kevin Knox at the 5. I mean, who knows? And that's, again, if Detroit was taking, who are these teams taking for right now? There's no one, and I'm not a college basketball guy, but I haven't heard any hype around any dude to tank for. Yeah. So you it's a pride type of thing. And, they're excited to get Bojan back. He hasn't been that good, but sometimes it just takes a few games. And you've seen bright spots. Cade needs to get going too. We forget that this is the guy that they want to build around. He sat out an entire year. And so he's still dusting that rust off, but he is still a guy in a right matchup. This one probably isn't that he'll have some monster games this season. I'm confident in that. It's tough going right now for the Pistons.
Reports out of Detroit are that the Pistons expected to actually be better this year. So a big surprise to everyone in Detroit and the Pistons organization. And Kevin Wright.
All right. So I got one comment too, Caleb. We as a society right now, we are too quick to judge someone just because look at the team that he has. Just because he is shitting the bed right now on this new team, new players that he's never coached before. I mean, you can't just absolutely throw the dude got, how much are they paying him? Obviously someone saw value in Monty Williams. I think he's one of the highest paid coaches. So I would pause to just call him a trash coach just yet.
AP is a believer in Monty Williams. And
I mean, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just,
Caleb,
you know what I'm talking about, JT.
I do. Wants Caleb to tone it down and give the man a chance to figure out what he's got, figure out who the best players are, and then move forward from there. Kevin Wrightsman, Pooh is ready to take one. This is what Pooh does every day after dinner. Quinn eats, and then we'll come in here and attack him. You guys won't get to see that, but it's a fun time. All right. Next game, AP. This is one that you are going to want to talk about, and I want to talk about, and I'm sure Sweet Travis wants to talk about, because you see the 260.5 total. It opened up last night when I did the pod with Bobby Hare, a.k.a. Bobby. It was at 258.5. Now it's at 260.5. Indy favored by 9, but the prices here are the biggest thing. The injury news here, Andrew Nembhard and Jalen Smith remain out for the Pacers. What do? Of course, they go and sign another body. Why not? 66-year-old James Johnson has signed a contract for the season with the Pacers. On the Wizards side, big news here because Jordan Poole is questionable. Yeah, he sucked, but if he's out, then we feel a little bit more confident in Tyus Jones. Maybe we feel a little more confident in Kyle Kuzma, Ryan Rollins, Landry Shamet, and DeLon Wright. All are out, AP. Talk to me about this game. And Slayer Oaks, if you want to go fuck yourself, that's your call. No one's saying to do that. We will get to your questions and thoughts here in a moment. I promise you that. Go ahead, AP. Wizards, Pacers.
Yeah, so speaking of, here I am, like saying, look, I might actually agree with you guys on Monty Williams. So I was more so just, talking big picture, other stuff. But
was there something that you had in mind that has been the subject of
I'm just saying it's like, so we live in such a reactionary society. It's like, oh, just because this happened, it means this is going to happen. And it's just, the world doesn't work like that. So, and right. I feel like that is where an edge is at, and more so in DFS too right now. It's just really, really interesting. You saw that with Jamal Cain. What was Jamal Cain on yesterday? I saw people bitching about him in chat, and we spent all show yesterday saying that Jamal Cain was bad chalk. We're not playing him. It was just like the Strother situation the time before. So
it was the Strother situation the other night. Worst play on the slate, and then KCP gets injured, and Joker gets ejected, and all of a sudden he plays 35 minutes. But it was like Sochan the other night. He's in a three-way rotation for point guard. He could get minutes, to the point that Travis brought up earlier. Minutes aren't secure for Jeremy Sochan right now. He's 40% owned on a huge slate. Anyway, Pacers, Wizards, talk to us.
Yeah, no, really good point on him too. I think I was on him that night too, so shame on me.
Sorry.
a 261 total. We all know I've been, a big advocate of betting on Pacers overs. I'm not sold on this spot, and it's mainly because the Wizards offensively they don't play any defense, but they got to play Kyle Kuzma a ton of minutes. I mean, where are the points going to come from? I just think that you need, I could see when you have a total that's 261, I'm more talking betting. If you have one bad quarter, you're kind of screwed. We saw that we saw that in the Bucks Pacers 2 first games that they played. One was in obviously the midseason tournament, and the other one was obviously before that. One quarter was just bad or underwhelmed, and then it messed up the total. And I think you could see that here, one inefficient quarter. The other problem with these two teams is rotations. The Pacers, obviously, they can run a pretty wide rotation where Tyrese Haliburton, definitely the guy that is locked into his role, but the price is really high. And it's what we've seen is a guy like Matt Thurn can come in, and if he's cooking, they're going to, Rick Carlisle is going to let him cook. You could have extended run from TJ. We've seen these teams with how bad the Wizards are, their second unit will crush, and typically coaches will let those players, give them a few extra minutes, which takes away from the starters. And that could be the case with Isaiah Jackson and TJ McConnell. So I don't trust the rotations here, and that's part of the problem. And then pricing is obviously kind of high too on both sides. Now, if Jordan Poole's out, so this is what's also when we talk about bad coaching. So I was really impressed with how the Wizards opened up the first quarter, the game against the Pelicans. Obviously, no Zion. It was their opportunity, and they got spanked. Absolutely embarrassed by Philly the game before. They came out. Everything ran through Kyle Kuzma. It was Tyus Jones running through things through Kyle Kuzma. Even Gafford had a nice first quarter. But then, you let your second unit just get in there, and they were terrible. Jared Butler, Anthony Gill, these guys were getting minutes, and not playing good. And the Pelicans, they blew, I think they were up by 20 points or something at some point. And the second unit was so bad, and you don't put Kyle Kuzma, you don't get him back in there quicker. I mean, the guy's not playing that many minutes because your team continues to get blown out. So I have no idea what they're doing. It's just bad coaching as well. But look, Kyle Kuzma in this matchup, they're at home. If the game stays close, 8,400, he's going to absolutely crush. That is the key. I love the matchup for him. I think it's a fine spot for Gafford too. Jordan Poole, I mean, guys, like last game, he was just standing in the corner. I mean, he sucks and he's hurt. I mean, if he plays, he's 6,400 in a pace-up matchup. He's probably going to be in my player pool. I'm not going to lie, but I wouldn't want to play him. If he's out, here's my sneaky take. If he gets ruled out, I'm betting a Wizards side, and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on the money line. We see these spots sometimes where a player like him that maybe he's kind of a cancer to a team sits out a game, the team kind of gets inspired, and they play up. I want to see that tonight. I want to see how this team plays without him. So I hope he sits, and if he does, I'm going to be very heavy on the Wizards side. I think we see maybe a tighter rotation. I would have interest in Kuzma, Tyus Jones, Daniel Gafford, and then I think Koulibaly would be the other guy that would get a lot of run here.
AP thinking that the absence of Jordan Poole is addition by subtraction here, sweet Travis. When I did the pod last night with Bobby Hare, I said Koulibaly has been the West Wizard. I mean, he comes off the bench. He's playing 30 minutes. He's been great. The price is up there now. And I thought it was interesting listening to Steve Kerr's comments last night about the Draymond Green suspension. He said the guy that, flopped, the guy that took a whack at Yusuf Nurkic, and the guy that punched Jordan last year, that's the guy that needs to change. Seemingly, maybe that affected Jordan Poole more than anything else, getting throttled and losing his manhood to Draymond Green. What are your thoughts here? Pacers, Wizards, do you agree with AP that Poole missing this game would be addition by subtraction? And what are your thoughts on any of the plays here?
No, I agree. I think you can make a case that Koulibaly has been the creme brulee of the Washington Wizards. So I think that Koulibaly is a pretty good option here. 5-4 is just, I think it's a really good price for a safe play that has upside as well. So I'm in on Koulibaly. The only reason I would be a little hesitant, and I don't know, this is kind of how I am in DFS, is like, I like to backload when I know there's news coming and other things that could pop up. So you could make a case that, hey, maybe I'll pause on it, but if I have all the news, I'd be a little more interested. I think if Jordan Poole sits, like, dude, this is a great Kyle Kuzma spot. Like, I like Kyle Kuzma here. I think he'd be a really good spend-up option. So Kyle Kuzma is definitely someone on my radar. Miles Turner, another person on my radar. Listen, if our boy Yermin Hector, if he was playing the Wizards tonight at center, I would roster him. Like anyone that plays the centers. You told me Big T was in there. You told me JSU was in at the center position against the Wizards. I would play him. It's just you got to consider Miles Turner. I think he is a better play at his price than Tyrese Halliburton. I don't see myself spending up on him. So overall, it's really just looking at Miles Turner. I think Benedict Mathurin is a pretty interesting option too. He's volatile, but I think he's definitely worth getting exposure to in tournaments. When I go through and do my FanDuel script, I'm going to up him in the projections to make sure I get a little bit of exposure to that. And I think it's Kyle Kuzma, number 1, Koulibaly 2, and then I don't hate Tyus Jones if we have Jordan Poole out. I think that could help him at least get to a better role right now than he's been in, because obviously whenever they do give it to a guard, Jordan Poole just hogs the ball and messes things up. Like at times, Jordan Poole literally runs to the ball and begs for it. So maybe with him off the court, that'll help Tyus Jones get back in a groove. You're on mute, JT.
I was going to let him go.
Almost never happens. Crew 1124 says, look at Mangone. He's got one-liners now. He's exploding with confidence after the last couple of weeks. You absolutely love to see it. Beanair is in here. Obviously, he's had some crack and opioids this afternoon because I have no idea what he is talking about. We'll move on, though, to the next game, Mangone. This one, not as exciting as the last two, but there is some news here that we are waiting on. It is New Orleans heading into Charlotte. The Pelicans favored by 8.5, a 232.5 total. LaMelo Ball and Frank Ntilikina remain out. PJ Washington is questionable, and Mark Williams has already been ruled out. On the Pelicans side, Cody Zeller will play, but Zion Williamson may not. What are your thoughts here, Pelicans in Charlotte?
For me or AP?
That's for you, sweet Travis. That's for you.
Yeah, I probably was blanking because I was having horrible flashbacks to the last slate with the Pelicans, and Troy Murphy off the bench, just going for 50 when I loved Troy Murphy, and I was just frustrated that he didn't start. I want Zion to play. Please play. One thing I will say, we all have mental blocks in DFS. Like, there's certain things that we just can't figure out. I hate Jonas Valanciunas. Like, I just absolutely hate him, and I don't want to have to make a decision on this in the matchup. I want Zion to be in, so I don't have to worry about it. Obviously, Valanciunas would be an interesting play, in that spot. So I think I want to really hope that Zion plays. If Zion doesn't play, though, it's a great matchup, right? Charlotte, it might not be the premier spots we target. Like, we typically love to target Washington and the Pacers. Charlotte was a spot that we targeted a lot in the past couple of years. I still think it's worth targeting, but not as good as some of those other spots. But overall, I think Zion is a cash game, like, safe option if he's in. We know he could do well in this matchup. I just don't love his upside. But if he's out, obviously you're going to have to like a lot of these different Pelicans options. We'll see what the starting lineup ends up being. And don't be afraid to mix and match some of those bench guys. Who knows if a Jose Alvarado gets hot off the bench, right? Trey Murphy came off the bench, was hot. Najee Marshall off the bench was hot. It was absolutely absurd. And this is a matchup where it could happen again. I don't hate some of the Pelicans options. Gordon Hayward, 6'5" on DraftKings. Brandon Miller, 6K. They're not bad options. But again, kind of like I said with Coulibaly, I feel like I'm kind of more so playing like safer 5X options and not getting enough ceiling at the price when there's like other plays that could open up with this Lakers news and stuff that we're waiting on that could really just, like, for instance, when you run projections, whatever you run now, and if you run it at like 730, I mean, you might be like a 5 points down in projections, right? And that's because there could be really good news that hits. So that's something to definitely think about. Is that game a 7 or 7:30? It's a 7 o'clock. So that's going to be important, obviously. Sometimes I don't like to lock myself in because we get some information at around 6:30. That could be super important.
Zion Williamson was at shoot around today, and Gary wants you to know that it's Trey Murphy, not Troy Murphy. It's Trey Murphy, Travis. So
that's fair. It is Trey.
Trey Murphy, the third, I believe, the third. All right.
He is the third.
Look, you won a few slates. Fantastic. Don't think that we're not above correcting you and letting you know when you make an egregious mistake. AP, New Orleans.
PJ just got ruled out, JT. So that's something obviously to think about too. PJ Washington.
Ooh. So I was hoping that they would sit on that news because we went out early in the last game that they played against the Heat, was watching this game close. And I mean, we would have gotten that news. So it doesn't really matter anyway, but this rotation was so tight. I'm talking about the Hornets. I mean, Miles Bridges played basically the entire second half. I mean, you had one of the tightest rotations we've seen. And when you think about the pieces that could come in and kind of support the starting unit here, JT Thor, I mean, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't. He's like allergic to touching the ball. He's not going to take usage away. Bryce McGowan's like, are you kidding me? These aren't guys that are going to impact the game. Like, we are going to see a very, very tight rotation from Charlotte here, assuming the game stays close and doesn't just completely blow out. And I like the matchup. No matter, like, even if Zion plays or not, like, Zion's fat and slow, not worried about him. Like, it's a good matchup for Miles Bridges. Bad person, obviously, good matchup. So, like, if you just look at what Kyle Kuzma played.
Are you judging Miles Bridges too quickly? He's only been arrested twice for domestic violence, AP. He could be
that was a good one.
The salt of the earth. Go on.
That was definitely a good one. No, I don't think he's a good person.
Only twice.
Only twice. Oh man, I should not be laughing. If you look at Kyle Kuzma in 29 minutes absolutely cooked that team. It's just, rotation. So if we get 7,500, Miles Bridges, I think, is a fantastic play in this spot. And then it's a rotation thing. Like, Terry Rozier's been playing really well. I want pieces from the Hornets. I think you want to be careful with who you're playing, but they're all priced really fairly. Like 5-4 for Nick Richards. He's going to get a ton of minutes. Like, no one is priced insanely too high, which Terry Rozier might be that guy. Game stays close. We're going to see multiple pieces from the Hornets here. Get that flame emoji that we all like to see by their name. And then, if Zion sits, I mean, the game becomes very intriguing as well. because, and I hope they do the same thing. Like Dyson Daniels, as a starter, just looking at like I don't know. I still kept Trey Murphy, like my projection in minutes the same, because Dyson Daniels, like Trey Murphy is legit really good, a very good 3-point shooter. And what are the Wizards? I'm talking about the last matchup they're in. They give up a ton of open 3-point looks. This dude was taking logo threes in that matchup as well. So, and then Najee Marshall would be in play as well if Zion was out. And it would be a great bounce back spot for Herb Jones. I think Herb Jones was someone that burnt a lot of us. I'd go right back to him. I don't think people are going to look at him and think about him. I would definitely be going back to him in this matchup against the Hornets. So I think I have a little bit more interest than most in this game. But that would definitely be confirmed if Zion was out. If Zion's in, it's a great matchup for him. I think he's a fine play, obviously, in this spot. If he's out, Joe Val becomes a much better play as well.
Herb Jones did burn a lot of us, but I think you're right. A bounce back here is certainly in the realm of possibility. Miles Bridges also down to 7,500 on DraftKings, which is about the lowest price that we've seen him since he got back onto the court. Jimmy B is having a day of it, talking to himself in chat about Tyus Jones being tomorrow's Gold Dust play of the day, and liking Dyson Daniels for some reason when he really doesn't touch the ball when he starts, to AP's point, which is why
I don't see the comparison. But.
No, I don't see the comparison either. And big news, by the way, Glock, our guy, Glaucoma, if you're in here, some sad news for you. Delano Blanton has been ruled out for the Celtics. So no Delano Blanton, but AP, that's not going to deter us. It's not going to stop us from talking about these Boston Celtics. They are home. The Orlando Magic are visiting Boston, favored by 4 points here, 224.5 total. Big news already out of Boston with Al Horford and Luke Cornett being ruled out. Kristaps Porzingis is doubtful to play in this game. Jaylen Brown is questionable. On the Magic side, Wendell Carter remains out. Kevon Harris remains out. Markelle Fultz, though, may be coming back, which would once again muddy up this Magic rotation, especially at the guard spot. What are your thoughts here? Still need some news, obviously. We need Porzingis to be definitively ruled out, and we need to know if Jaylen Brown is playing. But what are your thoughts so far, Magic at the Celtics?
Yeah, so the Magic, I think when this game was at home, the Magic, I think they upset Boston. And so I think the Celtics, mainly like, the stud starters here are going to be pretty hungry in this spot. I'm not seeing a ton of ownership on Jason Tatum, and I think he's going to have to do everything here. Like the Magic, they play slow, pretty good defensively. They're a big team. So like the elephant in the room is, I don't know a lot about him, but Niehaus, Keita?
Yeah, you said it perfect.
Oh, perfect. There we go. He should have to play a lot of minutes here. Obviously, fouls are concerned, but like you can't really go small against the Magic. So just like thinking practically through it, yeah, if you're worried about foul trouble, that's something that could be a risk. But again, I don't like go into a slate looking at a 3K guy worrying about foul trouble. If it happens, it happens, and it's going to impact a lot of us because he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate, assuming he does start. I don't know who else they would start. I think he's the guy that has to start, and I think he has to play decent minutes here. O'Shea Brissett would be the other guy, but if Jaylen Brown is out, like I think Jason Tatum becomes arguably like the best play in the slate because he's just going to have to do everything. We've seen him in these spots. I know the matchup's tough, slower paced, but Tatum has shown massive upside, and he tends to be more matchup proof than other studs that are, or than a lot of the different players that are out there. The problem with Tatum and why we don't see a lot of like ceiling type of performances, Boston's loaded. There's a lot of there's a lot of usage to go around. There's a lot of mouths to feed when Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, when they're all playing. But we're down Horford and Porzingis and could be down Jaylen Brown. So obviously that's very important news. If Jaylen Brown goes out, Sam Hauser would get the start, would be in play. I would have more interest in like Drew Holiday. We talked about this. I can't remember what slate it was, but he's kind of, when they're healthy, he's kind of like the fourth option, maybe fifth option when we're looking at, for offensively speaking, because you got Tatum, obviously, 1, Jaylen Brown, 2, and then Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday. It's kind of how I have it. But the more pieces that are out, it's going to increase how much I like him because more is going to be put on his shoulders. So I think we have to have a lot of interest in Boston, even outside of the projected chalk, starting 3K center. I have no interest on the Magic side. They should get Markelle Fultz back. A bigger rotation here. They're going to be playing, I see them running a pretty wide rotation, trying to wear this Boston Celtics team down. Boston's still favored. I hope if Jaylen Brown's out, we should see that spread come down even more. That's when I'm going to go and fire a bet on the Boston side because I still think that they sneak out a win on the heels of a big performance from Jason Tatum.
AP giving away bets here as well. Beanair has changed his Twitter header photo. And a couple of things. One, you could not have picked a better photo because it's of me. And then 2, I'm really proud of you for coming out. I'm really proud of you. I know that many of us have known, but I'm proud of you for finding the courage to do that. Mangone, Boston, Orlando. What are your thoughts here on this game with the news we have so far?
Yeah, one thing I'll call out, we're sure get the Boston news soon, but it's really hard to really make decisions on what to do with Boston without it. Because I think Derek White is a fine player right now, but if Jaylen Brown was out, Derek White would be a good play. You make a case for Holiday. Tatum, the usage he would have would be insane. And I think Neemias Queta could definitely be an interesting center option and a good value. But yes, he could also be a bad one, right? We'll wait and see what happens with some of this news. The real question is, let's say he starts, right? Who is the backup center if you had to pick, right? Is it Tatum or is it O'Shea Brissett? If you want to get really crazy, O'Shea Brissett, I think could gain some minutes that you're not expecting, especially if a Jaylen Brown happened to be out. But
couldn't he start Brissett?
I guess he could start. Yeah, he could. It wouldn't be crazy instead of Queta. But what I'm getting at here with Boston is there could be some interesting value here. Now, this value might not be as good as some of the later value we get, but that'll be news that we're waiting on. That comes at 7:30, and this Boston situation is going to be important. And like AP said, if Brown is out, great spot for Jason Tatum at 10.1K, someone that you'd want to look to get exposure to. And on the Magic side of the ball, I believe Markelle Fultz is questionable. I really don't see anyone I'm interested in here. I feel like this is a team to just kind of X off on this slate. And again, there's other pieces of news that could come that could be interesting, and there's other good plays that we've already looked at.
A fully healthy Magic team with a fairly healthy, significant rotation. I need someone in chat to do us a favor. Outside of hitting the like button, subscribe button, all the other things that we ask you to do, I need someone to tell me how many likes we have right now, because I know that we've got about 330 watching, and I just need to know where we're at in likes, because I think after the next game, it's going to be time for Sweet Travis to gaze into the European sunset and pull out a number out of the Eiffel Tower. Sweet Travis, we'll stay with you before we get to that 124. Oh, that's disgusting. We need to up the likes. All right, Sweet Travis, the next game is the one that we've been talking about where maybe we're waiting for news, but maybe we're not. Because every single day, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are some form of questionable, probable, maybe, never just not on the injury report. Anthony Davis played the other night against the Spurs. LeBron did not. I expect LeBron to play tonight because this is the only time that they're going into San Antonio. And LeBron seems to understand that people pay money to come and see LeBron James. So I expect that he'll be in. But nonetheless, he's questionable. Anthony Davis is questionable. Taurean Prince, who may be dealing with a real injury, is questionable. Cam Reddish, I believe, he's also now questionable, as well as D'Angelo Russell. Rui Hachimura is in. Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to remain out, and Jared Vanderbilt is probable. So a big injury report for the Los Angeles Lakers. Gabe Vincent remains out. David Duke has signed a contract with the Spurs. Otherwise, no notable injuries for San Antonio. What are your thoughts here? It's a 234 total. Lakers favored by 6.5.
Yeah, the one thing to call out with the Lakers that's encouraging is there's so many Q tags that like something's probably going to hit, right? I doubt they all flip over and become probable. I'm sure someone sits. I don't know who. You never know who it's going to be, but I mean, Paul George was at shoot around the other day, right? And then he didn't end up playing. So we don't know what's going to happen. That's just how NBA DFS is. We can get a guess or prediction on it. But for me, I just know we're going to have at least an update at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then probably at 6:45, if we don't see anything by then we'll probably get the starting lineup at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's kind of the process that I'm going to go through when I get this information. For me, I think you make a case that if a LeBron sat, if you had a, if you had a D'Angelo Russell sit, like if one of the big usage guys sits, who's the guy that gets the first biggest bump? And it's clearly Austin Reeves. Now he's priced up a bit, but in this matchup, I would not ignore him at 6.7K. So he is someone that I'll definitely look at. If you told me Rui is starting again, I mean, it's wheels up on Rui. I would definitely be interested in him, but he'd have to be starting for me to be interested in him. If, these like wing guys, right? If Cam Reddish and a Taurean Prince sat, who gets the bump? That's the big question. I think if the wing guys sat, you could make a case that a Max Christie could get a bump. But again, I don't know who's sitting. And Max Christie sounds disgusting, but I think if both those guys sat, someone would have to fill the wing, right? We just have to kind of wait and see how that news falls and then replace it. If you had a LeBron sit, I'd like AD. If you had an AD sit, I would like LeBron. So that's a big piece of news, and that could be one reason why you maybe sit and wait a little bit on the news, especially if, let's say, at like 6:30, one of these guys gets downgraded to doubtful, right? That could be a very encouraging sign to fade some of these earlier games. So that's kind of how I'm handling that situation. As we keep moving along, San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama at 9.1K. The dude dropped almost 70 with Anthony Davis guarding him. He is matchup proof at the 9.1K price tag. You just can't ignore him. So I will not be ignoring Victor Wembanyama. I think he's in play. Jeremy Sokan and these like other Spurs options. One thing I'll just call out. I think they're these like ball handlers on the Spurs. Can they get there? Sure. But at their ownership, am I a little cautious with them? Yes. I think you have to be a little bit cautious with some of these options. Maybe I would set a rule of just max a one of like a Keldon, Vassell, and a Sokan. Or even maybe put a Jones in there instead of like a Keldon Johnson. So something to think about with the Spurs, though, just because I think some of these guys will lose minutes. And again, with Popovich, you just kind of don't know, where I think it's not the worst idea to set some rules in with there. We're not saying they're bad plays, but just kind of think about how we play them.
AP, when I first looked at this game last night and I saw the pricing on San Antonio, believe it or not, I was interested in some Spurs. Keldon Johnson stood out to me at 6,800 in this good matchup. Travis, he's mildly interested in the ball handlers for the Spurs. What are your thoughts here on this game?
I don't know what's so funny. Bean Ayers on one today. I just keep laughing at everything.
He had a lunch.
And then something about Travis and handling ball. I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm hearing. But Wemby in this matchup was my play of the day on Wednesday. I thought, I'll be honest, I thought AD was going to sit. Our bet was that both would play tonight. ESPN game going to be featured. And look, JT, I love what you said. Like LeBron, he knows that people pay to see him play. And in this spot, I think he's a lock to play. And the other thing about LeBron is he loves to perform in front of Pop. Just go and look. And again, if you're fading this game for whatever reason, earmuffs, you don't have to listen to this. But in San Antonio, as a Laker, here's what LeBron has done. And I'm just going to reference DK points because that's easiest. 64, 63, 63, 63, 68, 59. He does have two underwhelming games, 48 and 42. But more often than not, this dude's putting up monster numbers in front of Pop. Just loves to perform in front of him. So, I think LeBron going to be a fantastic play tonight. And Wemby, too. Wemby, 9-1. This dude was – that fourth quarter was fun to watch. And it was all Keldon Johnson and Victor Wembanyama. If Pop is serious and wants to try to get a win, he needs to just play his best players. Stop with these shitty, wide rotations. You got to play you got to play Wemby, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, a lot of minutes. Branham's been really good. Maybe mix and match some vets in there. Maybe actually play Trey Jones more than Sochan, because like what I've seen with Sochan, I think he's just lost, and like he's not able to get his guys in a good position, and like someone like Victor Wembanyama is having to create on his own, which as a 7'5", dude, I mean he's able to do so, but still, I think maybe go more Trey Jones. DFS wise, is he going to be in my pool? Maybe a little bit, but I'm not sitting here like saying to play that guy, because we know Pop, we know these rotations are very difficult to navigate. And yeah, we got to wait, obviously, oh, hey, look, Jordan Poole's in. Yay. So obviously we got to wait for the news. Like a midday downgrade, especially a guy like D'Angelo Russell, is somewhat concerning. What is going on today? My kid just like literally fell down the stairs.
I hope he's all right.
Gosh, he is. Yeah, I looked and he's like, I think he's just trolling. My kid, they love to mess with me because I have glass windows to my office and stuff. They know they can mess with me, but he is all right. So yeah, a midday downgrade is never a good thing. And so yeah, I think D'Angelo Russell is definitely a game time decision. So I think that's even better for a guy like LeBron. The ball is going to be in his hands more. He's going to do more facilitating in this offense. It's going to be an upgrade to Austin Reeves. I think this game is going to be one that we definitely want to fully understand the news, and we're going to want exposure to.
Maybe Niehaus is the only one that we play from the early games if he starts. There's a report that was posted. If you're a member, get in the Discord. There's a lot of fun going on in there in the NBA channel. There is a report in there that Niehaus is looking sharp in warmups, and he could be in line to start tonight if Porzingis is out. Of course, Porzingis is doubtful. Hit the like button, Travis. What number do we need to get to the plays of the day? It sounds like, to me, the plays of the day are going to be critical for a slate like this, because are you playing early guys, or are we going to wait? Because obviously some of these Lakers are going to miss.
Yeah, I want to give the chat some credit. Good news, Zion is playing. That makes me happy. I want to give the chat some credit. 149 likes, not bad. I mean, I'll admit, the past month has been a struggle for the guys in the chat. You guys have done well. This doesn't mean you stop doing a good job, on Monday or Saturday. We got a Saturday show for you tomorrow for some NFL stuff, so make sure to get those likes in there as well. But JT, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm going to go with the really easy number, okay? Let's just go with 175. I'm going to be real nice. You just need 25 more. You've done well. That doesn't mean you stop at the 25, right? At least, keep hitting it if you haven't. I have a friend that hops on and jumps on both the burners, right? Gets on the one account, gets on the other. If you got a burner, make sure to get on that burner and do that. I know Winnie the Pooh is going to do that for us a little bit too as well. But JT, 175. We're going to make it nice and simple today.
175. So Travis, true to his word, did reward the people for hitting the like button, and the number is now within reach. It's already within reach. So pretty amazing there. And the story, by the way, there's a great story about Popovich and LeBron going back to when Popovich coached the Olympic team. So I think that has a lot to do with his desire to play well in
Crew,
front.
I want to mention this, JT. Crew, yeah. He says that's soft. Crew, this isn't soft. You know what happens when AP's child does his homework, right? He gives him something to reward him, right? I'm rewarding you guys with an easier task. Now, if I walked in here and I saw 85 likes, I'd be like, hey, you got to get to 200 or something like that, right? I'd make it difficult on you because you deserve it. But you've earned this, so it's not being soft, crew. I'm just appreciative, and I'm impressed with the crew today.
All right. And you did. Did you give us your thoughts on Lakers Spurs?
Yes, I did. I talked about Wembanyama being cheap. Yeah, I mean, we have to wait for the Lakers stuff a little bit.
I apologize. It's because Beanair is being so distracting after his afternoon of narcotics intake. The next game, Travis, actually, AP, we'll stick with you. Travis gave us the number, 175. Get the number, AP. This is also a rematch from the other night, Atlanta at Toronto. This game went absolutely bonkers. A lot of ceiling performances in this one from the other night that were almost completely unowned. Trae Young, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, OG Anunoby, who now is rumored to be on the trading block to the Kings. But Atlanta, they remain in Toronto. A nice week in Canada. It's not France, but it's Canada. Toronto favored by 242 total for Atlanta. AJ Griffin and Muhammad Way remain out. DeAndre Hunter is questionable. The only injury news for the Toronto Raptors is the Christian Coloco injury, which remains. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so, man, they really need DeAndre Hunter back into this lineup. I mean, they're forced to play Sadiq Bey, 38 minutes last game? That's insane. He's up there with Trae Young, 39 minutes. This is a team that usually has a lot of wing depth, and that's just not the case right now. If DeAndre Hunter's back, obviously that helps, muddies up the situation a little bit. The team we like to attack, though, obviously is the Raptors. The one interesting thing that I like that I'm seeing is we're getting more overlap between Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella. So I like that. It increases the value of a guy like Okongwu, in my opinion, at 5K. But again, it's center only. So, we have one center spot that's going to be highly owned. That is a very, very strong play. And so it kind of limits your ability of what you can do with that second center spot, place them in the utility. And then Pirtle, our guy, playing centers against this Hawks team has been an absolute printer. Jakob Pirtle, a guy that for me, I play in certain matchups. The Hawks is a great matchup. We saw that last, 13 rebounds, 6 assists in there, 3 blocks for 47 DK points. You could go right back to him. And then, it's Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam. I love the matchup for Pascal Siakam. Power forwards against this Hawks team. Basically, front court players against the Hawks have done very well on the season. So I am very fine with them. Their price tags are fine as well. The pace should be good. Raptors favored by 1.5 points. Yeah, I think this is going to be a game that's very viable that we want exposure to. And then it's Trae Young. Trae Young was incredible. 20. If we could get that, the problem is are we going to can we expect 27 field goal attempts again? I don't think so. JT, one thing that you talked about, typically on the second game when these teams play each other, you see adjustments. You see these teams are smart. They got to make some adjustments. And obviously the Raptors have pieces, one very good defender in OG Anunoby. They should be able to make an adjustment here to limit the field goal attempts from Trae Young. The last time he took 27 was against Boston. He followed it up. Cleveland absolutely threw the sink at him. And he was 3 for 14 in the next matchup. So I would expect less than 27. If you think the game's going to play out the same way, then Trae Young very much in play. But I'm going to bet against that tonight, and I'll be under on Mr. Trae Young. I do like the Raptors side of this game, though. I'll have more exposure to that side.
I think the move here is to zag on the Hawks side, and maybe DeJounte Murray at just 8,200 is the play. Maybe Trae gets into foul trouble. But Travis, the Hawks can't really defend anybody. And this is a spot where for Toronto, you want the main guys. You want Scotty Barnes. Maybe you want Dennis Schroeder. What are your thoughts here? Pascal Siakam had a huge night the other night. I don't see any way that the Hawks stop these guys. What are your thoughts here, Hawks and Raptors? And after this, AP, Alex is bagging on Quinn Snyder, says he forgot how to coach. And again, we're just making a harsh, quick judgment, and AP is going to talk to you about that when Travis is done breaking down this game.
Yeah, so one thing to talk about with this game, let's talk a little lineup construction. So because a lot of people are probably playing this Keita guy because he's probably going to start, right? That allows us to have salary. And a lot of people want to spend at their forward position. For some of the guys, like Pascal Siakam is one of them. You can make a case for Scotty Barnes. And then what I've noticed with construction today is everyone is just playing these Spurs guards and then these Raptors guards, right? It seems like they're playing Dennis Schroeder, OG Anunoby, all fine options, but everyone is really gravitating towards the same ones, where I think getting different at guard is not a bad idea today. Some of these guards are fine. Like, for instance, I like OG Anunoby. He's probably my favorite option on the Toronto Raptors. I think this game environment fits him well. I absolutely loved him in the last matchup. And I'm going to go back to the well on him for sure. I'm going to get exposure to some of these Raptors, but don't just sit there and slam Raptors and Spurs, I think, in your guard spots. I really think you want to look for some ways to get a little bit different. Again, you could do it with the DeJounte Murray, like you talked about, JT, with a flipping the build kind of route, or a Trae Young. certainly fine. Not my favorite thing to do, but you certainly can do it. We just saw Trae Young go for almost 69 against this team, right? So just kind of wanted to call that out because I think it's a really important talking point when it comes to the Raptors and the Spurs guards specifically, because I think there's some really good differentiation opportunity here because I think too many people are gravitating their ownership to those options. Doesn't mean you can't play them. Doesn't mean there's not good plays there. But I think if you start your team with just your guard spots being only guys from that team, I just think that's kind of wrong. But anyways, Atlanta, I think you can make a case that, sure, some of these wing players, like at their price, they're a little just too expensive now, right? We're also waiting for the DeAndre Hunter news. That could shift a ton of stuff there. I think one center option that I don't think should get overlooked and had a huge game the other day could easily have a huge game again because, hey, Clint Capella and Okongwu, they're both not good at protecting the rim. We thought that Jakob Poeltl could get more minutes in this matchup last time. Guess what? He got more minutes. I mean, he got 32 minutes in this spot. I'm not expecting him to get that 24-minute game or 22-minute game. I'm not saying he's getting 32 again, but I think the minutes are secure. 5.9K. He doesn't need 57.25 like the last time out. I think he's a good value. I like his floor ceiling combination on this slate, so I think he's a good play. Siakam's a good play. OG Anunoby. The way I'd rank him, OG is probably my favorite in this game. I'll probably go Poeltl next, then I'll go Pascal Siakam is the better spend in this game. And then from there, it's probably those guards, the Schroeders, the Gary Trent Juniors. But yeah, overall, if I had to pick which chalk I like more right now, it'd probably be Raptors chalk over Spurs chalk.
One question for Mangone, real quick. Is Gary Trent, I'm showing ownership on Gary Trent. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, it's mainly because AP, there's not a lot of guards that you like, right? So everyone's gravitating towards the same plays. And they don't like the alternatives. And I'm going to be honest. I haven't finished my 3-max stuff. And looking for the alternatives, it's not an easy job, right? There's not a lot of guard alternatives to absolutely love. For instance, if we got news that D'Angelo Russell is out, a lot of ownership would gravitate towards Austin Reeves instantly because of how weak the guard position is in general. That's why I'm saying sometimes you have to embrace the unknown. And I think it's a good spot to embrace some of the plays. Like, go on the Run Pure Sports projections on Sabersim and maybe look at the guys that are in the similar range of the Spurs and up the projections of some of the guys that are at a similar projection but maybe 2 below. I just think it's a good spot to embrace some of the lower owned plays at the guard position specifically today. Doesn't mean you can't play Raptors and Spurs, but I just don't want to only play those guys.
Yeah, and my comments on him was just be careful with a play like that.
Yeah,
he's right around 20 minutes, raw scoring dependent. Not getting too many peripheral stats on this team. So, I mean, that's like a play that could, has a lot of bust potential. So that if he's going to be chalk, that's definitely a play that I would want to be underweight relative to the field.
1,000%. And Jaylen Brown just got ruled in. And with Jaylen Brown being ruled in, well, now we don't have Derek White as appealing. Maybe he's still fine. But point is, if Jaylen Brown was out, that would be White and Drew Holiday. They would definitely gain some ownership for sure. So just worth kind of mentioning that guards could be really interesting later on for some value that could open up.
Other news, James Johnson thankfully is available to make his Pacers debut on Friday, muddying up that rotation just a little bit more. P. Lally.
JT, James Johnson will not enter the rotation until January 1st when they play the Milwaukee Bucks and they need James Johnson to play.
It's Rick Carlisle, so he could play 30 minutes tonight. I mean, you just never know. P. Lally 10 is in here. He says, Mangone looks fly, and we're happy to have you, P. Lally. This is a comment we're not happy to have, King of Smack. What about Wesley Matthews? I was tempted to put you in timeout just for considering Wesley Matthews on this slate, but we love you. You're a regular viewer, and we're happy that you're here.
Yeah, JT, that might be our guy Yermin's burner account, because the other day, this is like a week ago, I was talking to him, and I said, Yermin, I need a 3.1K guy, and he said, I'm not saying this is great, but I know Wesley Matthews is a 3.1K starter, and I said, thanks for the information. That is not valuable. Like, it wasn't helpful. So thank you, Yermin. That might be his burner account.
It might be. It might be. Someone in chat, let me know how many likes we have so I can stop saying hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, because once we get to 175, I'm not going to care all that much anymore. Sweet Travis, we'll stay with you. The next game in the 8 o'clock window here is Houston at Memphis. Houston is favored by 3.5, 212.5 total. Jayshawn Tate was a midday downgrade to doubtful. Amen Thompson is questionable. Desmond Bane questionable for the Memphis Grizzlies. John Moran has 2 games remaining on his suspension. Marcus Smart remains out. We are at 190. Thank you very much, Chad. I appreciate that. Travis, thoughts on this 212.5 total? This seems like one of the ugliest games of the night here, Houston-Memphis.
It seems like it, but if Desmond Bane sat, JT, well, it would get intriguing, right? For one, Jaren Jackson Jr. absolutely nuked the other night. I think he definitely could again at the price of 8.5. The ceiling is just still there, right? So don't completely ignore that. But when it comes to the Memphis guys, who are the guys that we would want to kind of get to? I think David Roddy isn't a bad option. Keep in mind, he just played 32 minutes and went 3-for-14. He was a starter. Memphis can always switch up their starters, but if he's in the starting role at 4-6, listen, there's worse plays. I know I don't love targeting Houston. It's not really a matchup. Like AP always talks about, hey, Pacers, bet their overs. It's a great spot to target. Houston is typically not a spot I like to, but value could open up and make it interesting. They can make it interesting for a guy like Vince Williams Jr. I did not mind him the other day. I played him a little bit at 4-3. I think the price is still right, and I'm interested in that. You could get away with Zaire Williams if he ran hot. I'm not saying it's my favorite option, but don't ignore him. I think he would not be a terrible value to kind of consider. And if you want, go pull up Popcorn Machine and look at some of these rotations. I'm not saying they're going to be the same, but there's options I don't think you should completely ignore on this team. We know Jalen Noel, he didn't play the entire second half. That was kind of a bit of a thinner play. The other thing to talk about is Derrick Rose. If Desmond Bane does sit, he is 5K. Derrick Rose played 31 minutes the other day. I did not expect 31 minutes. I expected more of the Noel kind of getting more of the run. We'll see what they do again with Derrick Rose, but because he got those minutes, I would think about playing him. 5K isn't a little pricey. Sure, it feels pricey, but on this slate, especially if the Lakers value doesn't open up some more things, don't ignore Derrick Rose at 5K. So I don't have all the answers right now, JT, but I think there's value that could open up that we should not ignore. Now, if Desmond Bane is in, not super excited about him. You could make the argument that, let's say you don't get this Memphis value. Is there some value that you could take some chances on? Yeah, Tari Eason played 27 minutes the last 2 games. Let's just double check. I'm sure some of it was blowout run a bit, and it was blowout run for Tari Eason. But if I told you Tari Eason was like a last resort at 5.2, okay, you could get away with it. I think you wouldn't feel great, but you could get away with it for sure. And I think Jabari Smith at 6K, it's a really good matchup for him. I wouldn't mind him if he was like a mid-tier option that you kind of want to get to. But overall, I'm not super excited about Houston. I don't mind Memphis, but the question is, what's going to happen with Desmond Bane? And I think that's something that we got to just wait on that news. We'll get an update at 6:30 Eastern on Desmond Bane from the coach. So we'll have an update. I'm not saying you'll know what's going to happen, but the update will be there, and you'll be able to kind of evaluate how to make your decision before long.
Sweet Travis does not have all the answers right now. I appreciate the honesty, but we will have an update in about 11 minutes. Other updates that have come in, DeAndre Hunter has been ruled out for the game against the Toronto Raptors, and Kristaps Porzingis remains doubtful. So thank you to the Boston Celtics for absolutely nothing. AP, Houston at Memphis. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Memphis right now is tough. They played 11 guys. That rotation was just absolutely gross. And Derrick Rose, Jaren Jackson Jr., both got over 30 minutes, and David Roddy. Outside of that, I don't really trust a lot going on here. I think Vince Williams, Zaire Williams, a lot of these guys are fringe plays at best. I hope Bane plays, and then if Bane plays, I don't really have to worry about this situation too much. And that's kind of how I'm going to handle it. If he's out, then yes, we got to figure this out. Jaren Jackson would obviously be in play. He was great last time, but there's still a lot of risk here. We all know like what Jaren Jackson can do. I mean, he can be the guy that just ultimately tilts you. And then the Tari Eason thing, if he's going to get some ownership, he's benefited from from blowout, from an easy matchup against the Spurs. I think box score lurkers are looking at that and they're seeing, oh wow, 42.5 DK point. Oh, 49.5 DK points. Oh, this guy's playable. Coming off the bench though, at an elevated price tag is just not a play that I'm going to be too high on. It's just that there's so much risk involved with a play like that. So if he's going to be chalk, I'm definitely underweight on that. You do get tighter rotations from the Rockets, but again, it's a matchup specific. If the Grizzlies go one way, like they did last game, going small, and it didn't really work, but we saw Şengün. Şengün did not play. He had 3 fouls in the third quarter, checked out midway through, and then did not enter the game again. So there's risks all around. The Rockets here, just matchup-wise, I think they have the Grizzlies' number, and I really hope I can just kind of avoid this game. If I can, that would be great. I'll be very, very pleased with my night.
Grizzlies, much like the Pistons, a bad team, not really sure how to correct things, and just experimenting at this point. So nothing is certain with that rotation outside of maybe Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. when he's not in foul trouble. It's really hard to rely on Jaren Jackson Jr. having any level of consistency after that ceiling game. So just a tough play to see there for me either way. Last game of the night, then we'll get to the plays of the day, and we'll be out of here in time for the Up to Lock show this evening. AP, will stick with you. The Knicks head into Phoenix to take on the Suns. Phoenix struggling a bit of late. They are favored in this game by 4.5, a 232.5 total. Grayson Allen is in. Grayson Allen himself says that he will not have a minutes restriction, which is fine because with a fully healthy Phoenix Suns team, I don't think the usage is there to support Grayson Allen as a play. Eric Gordon is questionable. Nasir Little is playing. Josh Okogie remains out. The Knicks, outside of course, the Mitchell Robinson injury, come into this one fully healthy. Thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's look like a lot of mouths to feed with KD, Beal, Booker, but still, like Beal is, I mean, he's easily the third, definitely like a third option here after Book than KD, and I feel like they're priced to have like at least one of them out, and that's not the case that we have here. So healthy team, and then the secondary pieces for the Suns like Grayson Allen, you have Eric Gordon, Bates Diop. They're starting Chimezie Metu for a few games. I mean, there's just we can't, when this team's healthy, I think you just remove them from the player pool. That's like my approach. So I'm going to be underweight on the Suns. Obviously a tougher matchup pace-wise and defensively against the Knicks team. And then the Knicks, yeah, I mean, if they keep pace here, it's Randall or Brunson for me. I don't like Hartenstein. Again, like center for me, I don't know if I'll get to Hartenstein. I think there's better center plays. I think I'd rather target one. I mean, the obvious chalk play, but then I think I would put Pirtle, even like Nick Richards. I would definitely put him ahead of a guy like Hartenstein. I even like Daniel Gafford a little bit too. So I don't think I'm going to be playing Hartenstein here off the bench, even though he saw more minutes and has a decent role. So yeah, it really comes down to Julius Randle if you want to go there, or Jalen Brunson.
All right. Sweet Travis, Knicks at Phoenix. Thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've noticed with the Knicks is some of these other options like Hart and DiVincenzo, they've benefited from the Mitchell Robinson thing, but it's hard to guess which one. It's worth kind of calling that out. If you are playing some showdown slate tonight, well, hey, there's some opportunity to maybe take some chances on those guys over there. Not as much on the main slate. I understand Julius Randle and Brunson contrarian spends that you can get to. The Phoenix side is a little bit tougher for me. They're just crowded now, right? And at the price tags, there's other studs I would just rather spend on. So for me, I'm kind of trying my best to stay far away from this game unless it's like a contrarian stud option of like a Brunson or Randle, like AP said.
All right. Not a lot of love for the Knicks Phoenix game. No surprise there. We did get, looks like over 200 likes, so we can go ahead with the plays of the day. I think what we'll do is we'll go with our guest last. We will let Travis have the last word on the plays of the day. And I'll go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and start with the Eiffel Tower play of the day. It's honestly, it's the way it should be because we have the Eiffel Tower right there, the beautiful tower of power. And it was my play of the day last night when I did the pod with Bobby. And now that I'm seeing how the Lakers are going to be a little bit shorthanded, maybe this San Antonio Spurs Lakers game stays a little bit close throughout the whole thing. Give me Keldon Johnson at 6,800. I think this is the first time I have ever chosen a Spur as my play of the day. But we're going to go with Keldon Johnson at 6,800 on DraftKings. That's a nice price. AP, the gentleman's play of the day, the gentleman's third unit play of the day. Who do you like here for this Friday night slate?
Yeah, play of the days have been smashing, so we gotta keep that going. And I'm going with my same game, other team. Obviously, I'm going with Mr. Year 21, LeBron James. Loves to perform in front of Coach Pop. I think he gives us a big performance here against a bad defensive team in the Spurs.
LeBron James, the king, the washed king. Sweet Travis. The Travis, what was it? The gummy play of the day, the sweet. It
was the Sweet Travis with the marshmallows, right? It was
the Sweet Travis, refreshing candy play of the day. What do you got? What do you got here for us, Travis?
Yes, as I gaze off to the Eiffel Tower, right, thinking of my play of the day, I'm going to watch an Eiffel Tower get the job done tonight. A big, tall man, that is Jakob Poeltl. He's on the flow chart, number one play on the flow chart, and he is going to be the play of the day. I talk about it almost every single show. Clint Capella, Okongwu, let's attack him. They're going to need his size because they do not play small, the Atlanta Hawks. So we're going to get a ton of Jakob Poeltl minutes. He's going to get the job done at 5.9K at lower ownership because everyone's playing this value center. Not that you can't play two centers, but that'll keep his ownership down. So give me Jakob Poeltl as my play of the day.
Keldon Johnson, LeBron James, Jakob Poeltl. Beanair says rather than play LeBron James, he would prefer to spend the night in a motel with Dwight Howard. For AP, Sweet Travis, good luck.